So I know what you might be thinking right now. Why does Will have a 35-minute video? Well, the reason is my original metaphor video was about 14 minutes long. We were asked to consider the feedback we were given on that video and consider how our professional growth has impacted our metaphor, which means for the past 6 months, since the last one was in March, we're considering the practicums that we went through and reflecting on the experience that we've had on our metaphor. So both of those things are going to drastically increase the time of the metaphor if we used a lot of what we had previously and we're adding on more to it. It's going to be bigger. We were asked where the beliefs that I hold about education come from. Well, the quick answer to that one is my mom. She was in education and she prided herself in being the computer teacher of her classroom. She was primary trained, and you can see here she's got these big bulky computers behind her because that's how it was in the 90s, and she absolutely loved her job. Here she is with some of the families there, the whānau, the akonga, and she's just having a great time. She was an educator at heart, and I think a large part of that I'm inspired by being a good teacher myself is from my mom, from her care that she had, from her professionalism. She learned computers well, so that way she could be the specialist in computers and bring technology and education together, and I have a huge passion for that as well. Teteriti o Waitangi regarding education in Aotearoa. My metaphor has Teteriti in it, without explicitly saying that. A big part of it was partnership. Mentioning many times, you'll see in this video that I'm saying we take the survey, we take student voice feedback surveys, we listen to what they have to say, partner with whānau, we partner with coaches, we're partnering with the students to make the best unit plan, to make the best lesson, to make the best teaching experience, to help the students thrive, to succeed in their learning, and to build skills that they'll develop and use in real life. Protection's brought up quite frequently. Of the three, this one I take is the onus I take as the teacher. That's important for us to create that sense of protection, to create safety in the classroom, to claim the space as the leader and to say, this is what we're doing. We're moving forward in these steps. We still take in their partnership, but the protection aspect comes from the teachers, where we are not allowing bullying to take place, where we're removing anything that prohibits the ability to learn. We protect that space as a learning space. And we participate. We are participating. We as teachers put in our effort, but we're asking the students as well to participate. You'll see I mentioned in the video many times that we lay the groundwork, we provide the tools, we provide the seeds, we help with making the soil as healthy as possible, but they, as the students, need to also participate. They need to bring in the effort as well. The onus is on both of us together. So with that, please enjoy the video and understand why it has the length it has. You'll see I edited the video many times throughout it. Take out any of the ums, the ahs, the clips. So it used to be an hour and a half. I was able to trim it down to 35 minutes, but do know that it was intentional and there wasn't any accidents in there. Thank you. Please enjoy the video. Hey, I'm Will. I am revisiting my metaphor of my pedagogy and my approach to how I'm going to best help my students succeed in the classroom. We did this in March. We're redoing it again. It's October now. Whole goal here is reflecting on our metaphors through the experiences that we've had through our practicums. I am doing my metaphor as a community garden, and I was inspired by the Awapuni Community Gardens, which are around the corner from my house here. This is really more than just me as the hero, as a teacher, but it's the whānau, it's the akonga's efforts, it's the coaches we have for their sports programs, it's their own peers, it's other faculty. Everybody gets involved as a village to really help our students succeed and thrive. So why are we doing a metaphor? We've got Keir Egan writing this in 2018, this article honoring the role of narrative and metaphor in education. They say making lore more meaningful, engaging, and memorable to students. Our students should be able to see our metaphors without us really needing to explain. The goal here is that we have these metaphors ready, but really it's more the fruits of those labors. So it's really the philosophy of our teaching that the students can feel it. So what's changed so far? Not much. Really, the akonga here, the goal is that they can experience our philosophy. And before this was the same philosophy, and here still the same philosophy. So the metaphor is still important, and it's still a community garden. So what is the community garden? It's everyone. It's all 30 of those students combined together. It's the walls, it's the windows, it's the classroom, it's the teacher, it's the student. It goes outside of the classroom. Kotahitanga, it's the unity of everyone. That's the whānau, it's the caretakers, it's everyone that's involved in their lives. And we're all gathering together to help these students learn and to help them succeed. And those are the harvests that we're collecting together, is their learning and their growing that takes place. This has changed. Before, when I made my metaphor, I, as the teacher, was the master gardener, guiding them through my experience in gardening. But I've switched that to be more of the steward of the gardens. Kai tiak. Kai is that word for food or sustenance in Maori. We see that in the first three letters here. Kai tiaki. And so I represent, as the teacher, the steward of classroom, of this experience that they have. I don't own it, but they are working with me together, and they are co-gardeners. So as opposed to me telling them this is what we're doing, as teachers, we involve the students, the akonga, in the process of building the unit plan. They're part of the mahi together, rather than us telling them this is what you're doing. We're getting more supportive and getting beneath and saying, hey, these are our goals that we need to get to, and recognizing that certain students have various strengths, some areas where they need to improve. We can reiterate on certain topics, or we can really go through them. We can go quickly because the majority of the class is understanding. They're part of that learning process. Kai tiaki means a guardian or a caretaker or a steward. Goal here would be to have daily practice, to write a journal of a bias log, to see if there's any unconscious biases that I as a teacher hold, and what I could do to break them, to make sure that every student has a fair and equal goal. They can know what success looks like for each of them. So what's changed here? Bring in that whānau voice as early as possible in that learning process. We have co-designed tasks with the students, and we seek mana and whenua input for local context to share decisions and criteria. I am not the hero teacher, but we're working with the students, with everybody involved in their lives, to help them grow and help them succeed and learn. Students are still considered co-gardeners. They're responsible for their garden within that community garden. They're responsible for their plot. They have to put in the effort. We're going to set them up with as many resources as we can. We're going to recognize their efforts. We're going to help them thrive, but they need to put in the effort as well. What's changed is, rather than me as the teacher saying, I'm planning this and you're doing it, or my support, involving them in the process, being more open, taking their feedback. Students' voice surveys are really important. We want to hear from whānau. We want to weave in language wherever we can. Te reo, te ao, Māori, wherever we can involve everyone, all the students in this entire process, where they can learn and thrive. The harvest is still the student-developed knowledge, their skills, their learning that's taking place. This is more than just grades, though. That's where this has changed. This can look like their ambitions for writing music, getting into business, video game development. Growth is more than just what do their grades look like. Are they completing their homework tasks? Are they listening in class? I am moving away from a grades first focus and moving into more of markers that are more literature framed, more focused on gaining input from whānau, from coaches, from other peers, other teachers, other peers, not only from my peers, but the peers of the students themselves too. Their input is so valuable, and we can know what that harvest, we can recognize that student effort, that knowledge, the skills that they're developing. That is the point. That's the harvest here. The primary goal is effort. As you can tell from this image, we're digging, doing hard things, but it's not effort for effort's sake, which is a wheel that just keeps spinning. We're getting specific goals in the unit plans. We have daily plans and lesson plannings, and getting specific targets that we're trying to hit. And then not only that, we're assessing in the moment. We could ask the students who's understanding what. We can have them give little sneaky thumbs up or thumbs down, because I don't want to make anybody feel like they're less than, right? Maybe they can write on surveys. Maybe they can reply in a Google Classroom post where it's more private, but we can get an idea. We can assess, where are you? What areas do we need to focus on? What areas do we need to reiterate? What do we need to revisit? Or what areas are we good as a classroom? What can we go through? We can check off that box and move on. We track visible effort through drafts, revisions, reflections, peer help, remove the blockers first. We specifically recognize the students by name, and we recognize the specific effort that they're putting in. My experience, specifically in maths, is been to let them know that that pain that they feel in learning something new is good. That is the goal. That's the effort. When you see them and you tell them about a new topic and they say, oh, I don't want to do this anymore, you remind them as a teacher, that's actually what we want to see. If you're in the gym and you're lifting heavy weights and it's really easy, that's not what we're here for. This should be strenuous. It should be difficult. I want to have fun, but it should also be quite difficult too. The garden beds are their desks, but it could be more than just their desks. Sometimes the learning can be on the whiteboard table in the back of the room where you've got a group of students who are specifically saying, hey, I finished problems 1 through 9 as you suggested. I'm noticing the book has these word problems. Number 10, I'm wanting a little bit more of a challenge. Oh, hey, me too. You bring them back to the whiteboard table and you get a group together. Okay, let's talk about these problems so you can approach them. While we've got the rest of the class who are focusing on the foundational things that we need to cover, that's absolutely great. You want to have them focus on those efforts. It's not a matter of intelligence and certain students are smarter than others. It's not it at all. Some students may have already had this experience and they're ready for the new thing. I want to be able to allow them the space where they can be challenged. We put them back to the whiteboard. It doesn't have to take a lot of time. And here's a big part of what I've been learning too. We set them up on the whiteboard. We set them up in the back or maybe in the front. We set them up with a problem. Okay, you all work on this together. I'm going to go back around. We're constantly roving. We're constantly checking in the students. I'm going to go back around, make sure that everybody else is good. I'll be back, see your work. I'll let you know if your answer is correct or not, but I'm still giving everyone an equal amount of effort. Their garden beds could also be the Tuakanatena systems where they've got the mentor-mentee programs where we have students who can act as a tutor to walk around and help out other students. They can find the ones who are in need. I strategically put garden beds next to each other where students who excel in math, put them right next to students who need a little extra help and they can act as a tutor. And the whole room lay out resources within reach, comfort options, grouping strategies for younger students, year 9s, year 10s. This could be fidget toys that they need that are quiet, but they're still allow them to fidget, allowing them space to draw for their minds to think while they're working on these problems. The seeds are still the lesson plans of the projects. What has changed though is I'm working on figuring out creative ways to let the students have autonomy and agency that they can choose where it is they want to focus on. And in maths, it's a little bit challenging, but it's quite possible. We're constantly reflecting, specifically setting Fridays. How did the week go? What could be improved for the next week? And we're constantly learning, looking for multiple modes. We're writing, we're building, we're recording, we're teaching. How do we give the students the tools they need in order to succeed? One of the ways to do this is to include embodied teaching and adding co-design, place, and whanau voice. We also want to include Mataranga Maori and whanau voice and student voice in these seeds. Every packet for every seed has purpose behind it. There's success criteria. We know what the students need in order to succeed, and they also know what they need to do to succeed. When they come into the classroom, they know what success looks like. They have a guided path that they know to follow. These are the seeds that we give them in order to help them succeed. Our gardening tools, there's still the worksheets, the discussion activities, the starters that we have, the mini lessons. One of the tools that I have now is called classroomscreen.com, which is just a screen where you take images from, it could be worksheets, and we're posting them up and moving them around, and they can be referenced later. And the students can access those screens later on, and they can click on them and know if they were sick, then they can know specifically what we worked on, or they can go back to those for reflection. Sometimes we'll take pictures. The starters will put them up on the screen and they'll work through the starters, and then we'll move them up to the done section and we'll put in a new one. Sometimes I'll take a picture of the textbook so that way when I have it up, we can have it on the projector. We'll work through them. We'll put them to the done section, and then later on students can reference those in Google Classroom. I'll put a post. Here's what we worked on today, and they can review that later when it comes time for the assessments. Also found out through experience that if I'm making a particular worksheet or something if I'm making a study guide from scratch, there's probably a better use of my time. I could probably go through the materials that are on the Google Drive. I could thumb through the physical archives that teachers have. We use tech when it helps. We use slides. We have Jamboards, crafts as we can. Whatever tools we can give these students to help them learn. A part of that is also using the Tuakanatena system where we have the mentor-mentee program. They can also provide the tools that they've used that have helped them succeed as well. Sometimes the rain and the wind hit and we've got productive distractions. We plan flex time for each week. We have short windows for catch up, for curiosity, for reset. We name it on the board. We have 10 minutes. Sometimes we can have a break. Let's say we've got period 5. If they can work really hard upwards to about 10 minutes before the bell, we can do a maths related game where they can take a break, maybe a patterns recognition game, something something where they know that it's a shift and they can relax a little bit. They deserve those brain breaks, and it's important for us as teachers to have those times scheduled. I've noticed that they can often be a reward, and it's surprising how a booklet or some type of an online game can really motivate these students. They'll be inspired to push through harder than they normally would. They know they've got that extra 10 minutes shaved off of the classroom and they can do something different. Really, the most important part is to protect the relationships first. If you give them a little bit of leadway, they get to be part of the process and say what it is that they genuinely need. Maybe they just got out of a hard test from a different class. Maybe they're going through something difficult. We pull in Maramataka. We allow off-topic conversations, and that's going to build trust. We have these quick growing plants, which are small lessons, our startup lessons. These could be the warm-up lessons, one skill, tight focus, quick, up on the whiteboard, not giving them these big, thick packets. I've had students ask me for worksheets. They actually really I like having 20 problems on the worksheet, and I like starting from the top and working to the bottom. But I found out the trick is that they like it when it's reviewed. If it's a new topic that we just learned for the day, if you give them 20 questions on it, they're a little overwhelmed. But if it's something they've done before and we're reviewing it, they really don't mind going through those 20 questions. It kind of gets that sense of satisfaction to check off those boxes. What's changed in this one? Not much here. We still have these smaller activities and we have the longer ones that take more time as well. The slow growing projects, which would be the tubers that take a while to grow. These could be multi-week. They could be working on a project that they work on a little bit each time they meet up, building portfolios. They could be building evidence for some type of a process. We did this a lot in digital technologies. They are reaching milestones, they're reaching checkpoints. There's multiple modes of learning. We've got the slow grind for credits, and we have the planned long growth for purpose, for support, for equity checks. Students build their own pace. Maybe even some students need these more deeper, longer thinking word problems, that they thrive in these. Manual watering here is us as teachers recognizing the efforts of our akona. And these are really important because now we're building whanangatanga, we're building manakitanga. They're happening in action. I found out that whanangatanga that word whanau is in the beginning of it, where you have the family, the community that's involved in this. And the manakitanga, mana, which is your internal respect, your value. Both of these when we focus on those as a teacher, the students are going to thrive. And we recognize their efforts. We're building both whanangatanga and manakitanga together. And the goal here is that they can have their own self-watering, that they can build up their own mana, that they can recognize their own efforts and they can thrive. They know what success looks like. And they know that they weren't pushed from a teacher to do that. One of the experiences that I've learned through my practicum is not focusing all of my attention on the students that are having a hard time putting in the effort. They might rest their heads in their hands and say, I don't really know what to do. And me as a teacher, I can be very empathetic to that. And I can recognize I had a hard time with maths too. I have a tendency to sit there with them and work through each problem. And in the meantime, I'm inadvertently ignoring the other 29 students in the classroom. So the trick here is we need to quickly make sure that they understand what success looks like. They have the tools to succeed. They have the Tuakana Tena systems, but then they need to also put in the effort. We've done the best we can. We've given them the tools that they need. They know what success looks like. And sometimes they're just not feeling it, and that's okay. I got to keep roving. I got to keep talking and making sure with the other students, connecting with them, making sure that everyone's good and they are set up to succeed. Another one we had was the bugs, the weeds, the reacting to misbehavior. We target the system, not necessarily the akonga. Maybe there's something that we can change to help them thrive. I had one student who was talking a lot with their neighbors. To my surprises, I found out as a pattern, their homework was done on time. They put in effort in classwork. They put in the effort in the assessments as well. They did really great. But they also chatted with their neighbors. And so I pulled them aside and said, I can't have you do this. I need to make sure that the conversation's really focused on the learning. You're doing well, but your neighbors need some help. And the student replied and said, yes, I know. I'm actually helping my neighbors. I'm acting as that tutor. They did tell me later, they said, I could use more challenge. Like I could use more extension problems that are a little bit more difficult than just the standard foundational things that we're expected to learn. I can knock those out really quick, but I need something that'll challenge me a little bit more. And so then I started providing those resources to them. Even though we want to see if we can adjust the system, we need to have pono in action. We need to make sure it's fair, it's consistent, it's transparent. There's non-negotiables. If I'm speaking, you're not. I need to take that responsibility and claim the space as the teacher, as the leader. We need to make sure we know what targeted goals look like. We need to know what success looks like. So that way there's no chance for misbehavior. If they understand what's expected of them, they know what success looks like. They know how to reach it. We as the teachers, our goal is to act as a coach. And the coaches, they set the expectations and they say, this is how we're doing it, short, snappy. They don't suggest things. Oh, maybe if you all could run around and do a couple laps, that might be a good idea. No, they're saying, give me 4, doing that now. All of us go. There's value to that. The students want to have that quick direction of what success looks like, and they know where they're going. At the same time, we're still listening to them. We're still getting their feedback. We're still adjusting as we're also acting as a coach, pointing them in the right direction and saying, it's go time. In the previous metaphor, I had these tree supports, which are the little sticks here that are helping the weaker trees. These relate to addressing misbehavior. We have a visual plan on the board. They know what, how, why, and what time. Using classroomscreen.com, I can have a little timer up on the center of the screen with a little sand timer. They know how much time they have to complete the starter. I give them time warnings. We got 3 minutes left. We're moving on. Starters are review, and I'm not taking my time to show the working of each of those starters. They already know how to do that. I post the answers up. If it's a starter, it's review. We know how to do this. Boom, we're done. We're moving on to the next. I only have so much time. We're using it as efficiently as possible, and we're creating structure. There is a little bit of a routine that takes place. They know what time boxes and checkpoints they need to hit. They know what the guardrails look like. They understand the escalations. If they talk out of turn and they're asked to leave the classroom, they know what that looks like. They've seen it happen before. They know that the teacher is serious. My experience is this is where I struggle the most. This is where I need to learn. I'm learning what my specific voice looks like. I'm learning what escalation looks like for that school in that particular circumstance. I don't want to send a student out and have that look out of the ordinary and have other students be like, whoa, I've never seen a teacher do this before. You don't really want to do that, right? You want to make sure it's consistent within the culture of the school. So you learn your school, you learn escalations. I'm currently asking tenured teachers how they approach particular situations, and that'll help me build up my kete so that way when I have one of those students, I know how to approach it. Part of having a nutrient-rich soil is having a respectful environment where there's zero bullying. We call it out, we log it on KMAR, we move on, make sure everybody's set up for success. We get rid of the problems. One voice at a time, teacher or student, same rule. We have active listening. We're using our eyes. We're setting their needs first. We're making sure the seating is intentional. The visuals, the breaks, the sensory tools, everything is designed for a rich soil to help them grow. Karen Asbden in her book recommends that we ask what removes friction for this learner. So we find out what the learner needs. We get the little rocks out of the soil and we make sure they have great soil. We identify safe tasks. Students can bring whānau, language, and local stories in for excellent learning environment. Frost, drought, storms happen. These are external challenges. It could be that they're tired, they're hungry, there's grief happening, there's fights outside of the classroom. It could be some technical issues. We start with care, quick check-in. Sometimes they need some food. Necessarily mind if it's a quick thing. If they're just snacking the whole time, no go. But if they need a quick bite to eat, get their brain fired up again, get back into it, not making a mess, clean up after themselves, I'm good. We make it fast, we get back into learning. We're learning maths. We do want to be flexible though about these outside circumstances that do happen, that do impact the classroom. We want to have some flexible paths for them. We want to make sure we have pastoral links from the deans, the counselors, the whānau. We contact when necessary. Safety first, clear plan for harm or crisis, then we get into the learning. What changed? Life hits hard. We protect mana, we hold the line on dignity, we have high expectations with the right scaffolds. We protect mana, we keep the students in the game, pace for a long season. Sometimes students are lacking motivation and they don't really want to do math. We find out why, what's going on. Sometimes it's just a period 5 and it's year 9 and they just don't want to deal with it. One of the experiences that I had a classroom that was like this. They presented some problems up on the board and the students were not interested. They were exhausted. They were saying, we don't want to do this right now. Well, they kept also saying, they would say, oh, we already know how to do this. This is easy. We already get this stuff. Oh, well, if you all know how to do it already, let me write this problem up on the board. You all can work together. If everybody gets it right, you've got 15 minutes of game time at the end of class. Whoa. Everybody's involved. Everybody's just, heads down, they're grinding the pens, they're trying to figure it out. They're talking with them. No, that's the right answer. And then, okay, time, we're done. So teacher asks, raise your hand. What was your answer? 42. What was your answer? 45. The correct answer is actually 44. How about we try again? Yeah, let's try again. Having that as an available reward motivated the students to switch the game plan rather than pulling them, dragging them. Please, let's focus on this. We set a small reward, and they were in it. We have rewards that grow mana. We have leadership choices, showcases. We have honest talk. Sometimes we need to switch the role. Sometimes one of the students has a great idea and they want to switch the role and be the one that's speaking. We do want to make it social. We want to implement the Tua Kanatena system, the mentor-mentee program, where students can help each other out. They can teach each other, can build each other up. It's not a matter of making it fun, but it's a matter of making it matter. Maybe all they need to know is, why are we even doing maths? What's the point? We can use the example of saying the All Blacks do push-ups. Do they do push-ups during a match or a game? No, but those push-ups help strength. We can explain to them that they could potentially use stats. They want to have their own business. They're going to need to know a bit of stats, predictive marketing strategies. And what we're learning right now can help give them the tools to succeed. The fa now here would be the veggie customers that come in, the community consumers of this learning skills that the students are developing. It could be the mentors, the coaches, the kayako, the mana whenua. The role here is that they're partners, helping us build the students together. They're the ones who recognize the growths of the akonga, and the akonga get the acknowledgement of their effort that they're putting in. They get feedback that builds mana. What happened? What worked? Let's do it again. We reach out for patterns, not for one-offs. We look for the opportunities to acknowledge their success of the students. How will the communities be contributing to the akonga? How do we build and connect communities into the classroom? How do we add present and future communities that the work will serve now? The internships, marae clubs. From my experience, connecting with the parents has been absolutely valuable. I did the parent-teacher interviews, or the learning conversations, speaking with the caregivers of the students, and they have excellent feedback to give. They know what their students need to thrive, and they can help us as teachers, give us feedback. When I did the learning conversations, I realized the value and importance of hearing the voice of the parents, who provide not only feedback for us, but suggestions on how we can help them succeed. An important part too is to hear the student gardener's choice, to have the student agency, to listen to their feedback. Student voice surveys go a long way to hear what they need, to hear what they tell us as teachers, what we're doing that is successful and what we're doing that's not very successful. It's important that we hear from them, we learn from them. Another part of the metaphor is student gardener's choice, student agency, letting them make the choices that they need in order to succeed. Juniors get scaffolded menus, seniors design with guardrails. The idea is providing agency and autonomy in the students' learning as much as we possibly can. From my experience, getting the students' voice surveys are really important. Knowing what the students need to succeed and thrive, hearing what they say that we are doing as teachers, that we're doing well, and areas that we need to grow on, it's very important. And we can know and implement that feedback into our teaching so that they are the most successful as they possibly can be. Tua Kanatena systems, the peer mentors, are also really useful in this circumstance, so that they can know how to provide agency to their partners. Sometimes we have these higher performers and they're doing the work. They're doing the mahi very well. Maybe we can treat them as a tutor and pair them up with another student nearby who needs some extra help and guidance and support. Some of our co-gardeners have differences, strengths, interests, challenges. We have universal design for learning. We're making sure that we're implementing those. So we're providing extra challenges and extension tasks and rich learning tasks for students who need it. We have scaffolds ready to go. When we lesson plan, we plan for extra problems. It could be as simple as guiding students who need extra challenge, guiding them to do some of the word problems in the back of the section. And it could be a little bit more challenging as going to New Zealand curriculum's rich learning tasks and downloading those, which are multi-challenge problems that they can work through that they can work with their neighbors and thrive in those extra challenges. The trick here is differentiation. And what I've learned from my experience is that it's possible only when you know your students. You find out what they need and how to meet those needs. Some students need to sit right in the front, right next to you, and to have that extra support. Some students are okay to be in the back, and they actually thrive in having a little bit more autonomy. Target here is to find out specifically what they need and to reach their needs. Some students' backgrounds are a little harder than others. We name the layers: whakapapa, place, language, whānau, funds of knowledge. The idea here is we recognize what it is that they need. Some students are hurt as they come into the classroom. Some students have rocky soil. Some students are going to need a little bit of extra support. Some students are going to need a pen, and that's okay. That's what we do. That's what we support them in. That's the part that helps them thrive so that they can learn in the classroom. Some of them, we need to check mood. We need to check for safety. We need to make sure that we're looking for the signals that they're okay, that they're ready to learn. Maybe this classroom could be a welcomed distraction for them. So far, what's changed is that this isn't, when you see a student off task, it's not background noise. The soil is part of their learning. It's just as equally important. So we're trying to figure out what we can do as teachers to remove any obstacles, to hear whānau voice, to partner up with the community, to partner up with mana whenua contexts and guide choices, help guide them in what they need, and to remove obstacles as a teacher to help them learn to take out any of those rocks in that soil. Another part of this as being a builder of the soil is recognizing that I as a teacher can help with this. I can advocate for them. I can provide the resources they need to thrive, and we can help change the conditions. We can help remove the rocks. What I wonder about teaching is how to trigger curiosity, how to start with puzzles, how to create a problem that the students can at first not know how to conquer, and then in their own mana, in their own mahi, they conquer that challenge on their own. How do we frame every lesson in that way, with a hook, with a gap, with a challenge, to name why they're even doing this? How do we introduce those micro inquiries? How do we make maths matter to them? Maybe it's pay rates, it's rent splits, it's bus times, it's sports stats, it's game odds. What can we do to help them thrive? Buy in to why maths, why learning is important. How do we track curiosity? How do we track the people who ask, who are persistent, who explain, who check in? We move from, in our lesson plan, we think, how do I spark curiosity? And we answer that in our lesson plan. It's a concrete playbook that we guide them through, that they know that they're part of, because we listened to their voice as well. So we worked on these lesson plans and these unit plans together, and we give them a playbook that they can run by, that they know what success looks like, they tick the boxes, and they're running hard. We give them quick directions. We tell them as a coach, this is what we're doing, go now. And they do it because they want to, and they want the guidance, and they want the leadership, and they want a clear path for success. They want us to listen and to hear, but they also want us to take charge and to claim the space as the leader. One of the comments that I'd received from the marker was that we also recognize we don't always see the impact of our teaching, because the successes show up far into the future, and that's okay. That's not necessarily why we do this. We do this for them to succeed, and we might not even know about it, and that's okay. What do I wonder about myself? Making sure I've got a balance check. I can be sitting in my classroom on my desk, lesson planning, grinding through constantly, coming in early, staying in late, and never seeing any of the other faculty, never going on walks around the campus, never checking in, always doing homework. I need to track myself. I need to figure out efficient ways to be effective and to make those impacts and to move on and to be as impactful as possible without taking up as much of my time. I want to be friendly. I want to be warm. I want to lead with firmness and fairness. I want to be a good coach in maths that can guide them to success. I want to provide agency and autonomy to those students that have worked really hard and are able to take on new challenges and to help as a tutor in the classroom. I want to build up their mana. I want to create a safe place for the room. I want to be able to know that my work serves them. What I understand about education is that some conditions are not equal. There could be support, there could be money, there could be language, there could be transport, there could be health. Not everyone's on a level playing field. We need to build equity. The history of still bites today. And as an American, I understand those challenges, and I love the efforts that the New Zealand curriculum is putting in order to help every student thrive, no matter what their background is. My role as a kaitiaki is to make sure that I am the steward of this classroom and they are all successful no matter their conditions. UDL by default, we use universal design for learning, and to make sure that as we build our lesson plans, we know the achievement standards, we know the criteria for success, and we paint that path for those students so they can thrive. Do we advocate for them? I used to have a more flexible playbook, and now I'm recognizing the importance of leading that classroom, giving them specific goals, not giving them a lot of leadway, but involving them in that process, still listening to what they have to say, but not giving any leeway for misbehavior or anything that could inhibit their ability to learn. What I'm still learning is having flexibility inside a structure. Having non-negotiable set tasks and timing can shift a little bit. Read the room, use quick signals, and a 60-second scan to choose. Push, pause, or pivot. Sometimes these aren't even 60-second scans. Sometimes they're even less than that. They're quicker. Manamataka pacing. Heavier lift on high energy days, lighter lift when the weather is tough. We have 2 gears. We have recovery weeks, or we have big pushes. We give them autonomy when their brains are cooked and they're tired. We open up a feedback loop. So we ask 3 students, what helped? What got in the way? What can I do to help them succeed? Do they know what success looks like? Do they understand what the path is moving forward? We add in a self-audit. That's another thing that changed. We set boundaries. We practice saying no so the room stays calm. What I want to improve is to prune any of the problems that get in the way, teach routines like life skills, specifically in the math room, so they know why these things are important to them, protect curiosity, inspire inquisitive minds, and to welcome mistakes, to make that okay. My goal here is to build leaders. I need to also be careful about my bias and who it is that I correct and who it is that I ignore and who it is that I acknowledge the efforts on and who it is I check in with on a regular basis and make sure that everyone feels they're getting an equal amount of my attention and time. My education dream is that students run the garden, they plan, they monitor, they adapt. Tuakana Tina system is in place. There are tutors in the classroom. There are people who are asking for help. Moving into shared leadership with the students. How can we understand what we do does? A major portion of this is assessments, but not the end of content assessments, just quick assessments in the classroom, checking with the students, checking with their classwork, seeing how they are, student voice surveys, listening to what they need, hearing their feedback, having an A/B lesson, getting direct inquiries from them, asking them what they need, implementing those as soon as possible so that the students know that their voices are being heard. Thank you for hearing my metaphor, and thank you for being the mentors that I need in order to best learn and to best help these students for success. Thank you.